Welcome back, SMITE fans, to the SMITE Pro League, powered by our good friends over at Prime Gaming here in Season 9 of the SPL. If you don't already have a Prime membership, you should probably jump on and go ahead and grab that so you can get free shipping, music, movies, and more, and get all the great stuff that you were probably already going to buy delivered straight to your doorstep, courtesy of Amazon Prime. And then link that over to your Twitch account and get all kinds of free games with Prime Gaming itself, as well as content for all the games that you're probably already playing. While we didn't have a video to show you some of the new games, I do have at least a sneak peek as to a couple of the games you can go out there. Just one that caught my eye, Fell Seal Arbiter's Mark, just by the artwork alone. Looks pretty sick. And if you're like me and playing any kind of game out there that has mini games or anything like that, fishing is always a mainstay in any kind of RPG or anything that you play. Then we got a fishing game out there in that one too. It's going to be Fishing North Atlantic, so I'll be keeping my eyes on that one. Thank you so much for Prime for being the sponsor in Season 9 of the SMITE Pro League. I'm J-Mac. I got Mifflin here who's very confused about... Are you confused about the title? That's right there in the...
Fell Seal
Arbiter's Mark. And Fishing North Atlantic. That's another one.
And that's like a I'm going crabbing?
I think it's just...
What do we fish for in the North Atlantic?
North Atlantic. I'm thinking crab fishing more than anything else, like crab or like shark or lobster. Or maybe not lobster. But
why else would you go deep sea fishing, right? Like it's only crab. If you want like a normal fish, like get a rod.
And just go sit on the lake. I mean, we're sitting almost like deadliest catch level kinds of nerves out here. But again, it's J-Mac and Mifflin. Our first set of the day is done, and what a great set that we had. The Atlantis Leviathans go to a full 3 games with the Solar Scarabs, and the Scarabs able to find that big win up against them. The breakthrough that the Scarabs have been needing so desperately this phase, they find it in the 4th week of play, right before we go into the round-robin reset with all of them. And looking at the head of the rest of the day, a little bit of a change up in the schedule. Camelot Kings and Oni Warriors will be our second set, and then we'll be closing out our day with the Jade Dragons and the Tartarus Titans. And taking a look at the standings, we get to see just how that one little game between the Scarabs and the Leviathans can shake things up. Leviathans, who were poised to be right there at that 2nd seed, they were that one game away from taking the 2nd spot away from the Bolts, have now dropped back down to that 4th seed. Even though the Scarabs don't move up any in the standings, having that 2 by their name, having that win over the Leviathans has definitely put a halt in a lot of their plans.
Isn't it crazy to see the Tartarus Titans and the Solar Scarabs so close to each other, right? Depending on how the next round of the round robin goes, those two could be just neck and neck going forward. And it just goes to show how competitive the league is right now. On any given day, any team can win. It just makes it for a phenomenal viewing experience, right? Nothing worse than when you're watching a game, and maybe I'm the only one that feels this way. I don't want to watch the undefeateds. I don't care about the Floyd Mayweathers of the world. Please don't hit me. Because, like, 50-1, like, all right, just the one. I want to see some mix-ups, and clearly the SPL's got that.
Well, no longer undefeated are the Camelot Kings, so maybe we can have a little bit of interest coming back from you talking about those players out there, and specifically talking about variety in that solo lane. We've had such a dynamic change in the solo lane meta specifically over the course of the last month or so of SMITE. Just in this portion of the phase, in Masters, we have seen so many change-ups to that solo lane, and Variety has adapted to all of them pretty well. He was playing some of those Hunters, then we saw the Warriors make their rise back, so he's dropping in Bologna, Amaterasu, gods like that. And now the Guardians are making a rise back in. He's jumping onto those too.
Look, if I know anything about Variety, and I don't because I've never had the pleasure, but I have heard things through the grapevine, namely from his coach. And Biggie has been quoted as saying that Variety is perhaps one of the most stubborn people he's ever had the pleasure or displeasure of speaking with, in that Variety's going to play what Variety wants to play. If on the day it's King Arthur, and it's like right after Glad Shield got the first rework and it was real bad, Variety's going to be playing King Arthur. If it's Ratatasker in a Guardian meta, he's going to be playing Ratatasker. No matter what, Variety is one that thinks for himself, and that makes him a bit interesting to watch in the lane. But with that said, if the need arises, if they really need their dub, he might become a Sobek abuser. My man might be locking in some Artio. As much as it might pain him, he will be doing so, and he looks good for it. The Camelot Kings, a multifaceted 5-headed threat, and not the least of which is Variety out of the solo.
And definitely a team that is no stranger to doing any kind of theory crafting, no matter which person on the team that you talk to, always something interesting. And we do have Variety standing by for our pregame interview from the Camelot Kings, the solo laner. Thanks for coming by out here. Coming into your set, talk to me a little bit about this change-up of the solo lane meta. I mean, we've been seeing it shift so much in just these last few weeks.
Yeah, I think a big component of that was the conduit gem change. It makes it so Guardians can clear the wave now, even after the 8.5 patch where, they made the creeps a lot harder to kill. And I think, honestly, most of the time they can outclear an assassin or a warrior, so I think that's why Guardians have become more meta, because they kind of have faster clear than any other role like warriors or assassins right now.
So big change up over there. You guys found a big win over the Bolts earlier on. Now you're going up against the Oni Warriors, and it kind of feels like two different styles of the team to really adapt and play over towards. I mean, for you guys going against the Warriors, where do you feel is the area where y'all need to really hunker down on?
Honestly, I'm not sure, because the last time we played them, although we got 2-0'd, I kind of feel like we just hard through the set, and we kind of like tried something new. We tried something, like, I think it was Athena jungle clear with DC. So it's kind of hard to take anything away from that, but I think going into the set, I think we just need to have a really solid draft. We need to just play solid as well. You know, there's not like any individual threat on the Warriors. They're all like good players, so I think we all just have to perform and like have a good draft, and we usually will come out on top of that.
Yeah, and in that solo lane matchup, you know, we see a lot of different play styles and whatnot. Going up against Nika, what would you say is kind of the play style and the mentality of going up against him?
Honestly, it depends on the meta. Like right now, I'm gonna assume he's gonna play Guardian. So, like outside of Artio, there isn't really that much like threatening Guardians in solo. Usually, it's like a handshake lane at that point. So in that case, yeah, it's gonna be pretty boring laning phase, honestly.
Just farm up and wait for the late game. Well,
yep.
Brian, thanks for coming by for the pregame interview. Good luck in your set. I'll let you back with the team.
Cheers, thank you.
It's a lot of change-ups, not just in the items, maybe some of the gods as well, has really shifted up the way that the solo laner goes out there. And then talking across the way now about the Oni Warriors and their solo laner, Nika. Obviously, you know, a little bit glib with, you know, his interview on talking about playing against Nika. We know that Nika loves to play some very aggressive style of gods. He mentioned the Artio specifically is something I imagine Mifflin is going to be on the talking point for both these players.
Yeah, loves to play the aggressive picks, loves to play the assassins. Nika, one of the first to rock Kleena and Bastet in the solo lane, but as we heard from BaRRaCCuDDa, it depends on how the meta shakes out. And right now, we're looking at a Guardian meta. And although it might be fun for the Guardian in the team fight, in the laning phase itself, what was the exact verbiage he had used? Handshake lane?
Yeah.
I actually really like that, because there's not a whole lot you can do to separate yourself, barring some Totemakus or some interaction with your jungler. Because when it's two Guardians staring each other down, it is just a wet noodle fight over there. So expect that from Nika, if he's in first pick, that Artio is the selection. Expect that from the Camelot Kings as well. But other notable Guardians that have made a meteoric rise recently, Sobek in the conversation. Conduit Gems really boosted his clear, makes him much more adaptable to the lane. But I tend to agree. As of now, solo lane kind of finds itself in the, hey, can't wait to get to that team fight. Can't wait to join up with my team a little bit later on, barring a couple of early initiations.
Yeah, maybe the most exciting thing that a solo laner has to deal with in the first 15 or so minutes of the game is if a jungler comes over to the lane to try and make things interesting. And, well, with two Guardians over there, it does tend to make it a little bit harder. And especially with the junglers going towards these tankier style of plays, we're seeing, you know, this Osiris, Erlang Shen making its rise back over in the jungle over anything else. So it might be a little bit boring to watch over in the solo lane, so we'll have to keep our eyes maybe elsewhere across the map. And maybe elsewhere is where a lot of that intrigue comes from, especially when you look over maybe at the Camelot Kings. Genetics is always theory crafting something. What god can I pick up and be able to run in the support role to really shake up things? You know, what kind of playstyles go through there? And then you look on the opposite side, and I look over towards the 2v2 in mid lane for Dardes and Cuvo Fred on the side of the Oni Warriors. These two guys have been making massive waves to their team, so much in fact that I would even say that the Morrigan specifically has got to be in the conversation of a top ban against Dardes, because the last two games that he's played in, I think over the course of the last 6 that he's gotten to play it, has only dropped like a single game on it.
Yeah, the Morrigan has been a major win condition for the Oni Warriors, and they build compositions around it. You better believe if he's playing the Morrigan, there's probably like a Daji or maybe even a Cthulhu, these double transformations that make it so stifling in the team fight, as well as Dardes probably being, you know, I'm gonna nix the probably. Dardes is the best base Morrigan player in the league, in my opinion. He has just been so dominant and so concise and so consistent in finding the initiations, getting into the back line, strategically removing individual members from the team fight, either by TKO or actual KO, and then transforming. Whereas I feel like very often we see a lot of these other guys, they'll throw out the Dark Omen, they're like, all right, I'm done, I'm going to transform. Let me get into the Cthulhu. I don't want to be playing the Morrigan anymore. I picked it so I could be this other guy. You can only pick one, so I had to do this. I think Dardes may be the only one out there who's like, yo, I enjoy playing the Morrigan.
Camelot Kings and the Oni Warriors. Game number 1, picks and bans all ready to go. The Kings will start out their ban by targeting out the big winning combo of the Oni Warriors, which is this Morrigan-Dodgy combination that the Oni Warriors have found success on in the past. They'll throw in a Muzen Cobb in there as well, just for good measure.
It's quick.
And then the Oni Warriors, they'll quickly speed through their bans too, with Yemoja, Khepri, and Chernabog, and then an instant Osiris lock-in by the Camelot Kings. We are speeding through this first portion, but thankfully for the Oni Warriors and for us, we'll at least get to slow down a moment to kind of talk about these picks.
Artio locked in immediately afterward. That is one that I thought we would see first overall from either the Kings or the Oni Warriors. Instead, makes her way to second pick, as Osiris is the first selection for the Kings and has some flex potential on that side, jungle and solo. The conversation, but up against Artio in the solo lane, not exactly a fun matchup for Osiris. Doesn't really match the same level of sustain. Doesn't really have the same level of survivability either. Conduit Gem really boosting Artio's clear. Something Variety had mentioned for a moment. Says that, well, maybe some of these Guardians are even out clearing the Warriors in lane. Osiris not exactly known for his phenomenal lane clear.
Freya.
So I think I would hedge my bets. That is likely going to be CaptainTwig piloting that god. And then Freya locked in with the Artio. So the magical core of the Oni Warriors will likely be 3, unless they want to run a Hunter in mid, and Darda is certainly no stranger to that style of play. I like the composition so far from both of these teams. I think the next 2 for the Kings going to be very telling about how they start to address this Osiris in the draft and how they want to deal with this Freya.
And Vote is no stranger to this Freya, has played it quite a few times over the course of this phase ever since that buff, so the Oni Warriors definitely no stranger to making sure they pick up some consistency. Xing Chen, a pick that the Camelot Kings did play in their previous matchup. They coupled that one with a Horus in the support role, but currently looking at Atlas instead, but will immediately be turned away and go towards a Fafnir. So a very bulky front line out of the Camelot Kings and a lot of lockdown. That Whirlwind of Rage and Steel from the Xing Chen can provide a lot of disruption and will force out quite a few ultimates from these carries.
That confirms the Osiris for the jungle. You've got Jing Chen over in the solo lane, so about as handshake as it can be. Healing from Artio off wave, as well as healing in combat. HP 5 for Jing Chen. Both of them going to have unlimited mana because of the blue buff, so I imagine they're going to stack up a whole lot of gold before either one of them really force back to base. With the Fafnir into Freya, a very strong counter matchup for the Kings. Not only can you disarm her when she starts to channel the Pulse or the Irradiate, but you can also just stun her out, and by nature of Freya only really taking the fight while she's got her stims activated means that any form of CC that stops her in her tracks is going to be even more valuable. Barring Fafnir in the late game team fight as well, Ferocious Roar, very strong as an anti-auto attack tool, could slow down this Freya as well. So I like how the Kings have drafted their top 3. Now it's on the Oni Warriors to figure out how exactly we're going to facilitate this Freya. And they find themselves a pretty tanky front line as well. Between Artio and Ganesh and the defense shred that Ganesh brings with Dharmic Pillars, might expedite the process of Freya getting to that mid/late game point, and even opens up the door towards some early objectives.
Now as we jump into the second wave of bans, some Hunters thrown the way, as Chernabog was the only, well, I guess AMC as well, more so a mid lane Hunter in that regard, but will be 3 Hunter bans. The first 2 by the Oni Warriors, Chiron, which is something that Netrioid has been going to more often than not, and Jing Wei. And if we look at the last 6 games that Netrioid was played, that's his whole god pool, at least for those 6. So we'll have to see something new out of the Hunter for the Oni War, or, oh, no, I was looking at the wrong thing. For Netrioid, well, let's get something new. Got myself talking in circles around there. On the side of the Camelot Kings,
there's a lot of Hunter bans.
There was a lot of Hunter bans there, but a Fenrir to round that one out, and that's something that Cubo Fred has defaulted himself to when this dodge. She is gone when he wants to be a little bit more of that setup orientation, especially when you have an Artio and a Ganesh. That's a perfect god to be able to lock somebody down and do a lot of damage very quickly.
I wonder, Uhl makes his way through the ban phase, doesn't really fit the Kings draft overly so. You don't have the auto attack style pick when you're locking in Uhl, so Fafnir not going to facilitate him nearly as much. Could be that he goes by the wayside, but if you so chose, could have an Uhl in mid as well, and that has seen success for both of BigManTingz and Dardas in the past. So keeping my eyes on that. The Oni Warriors, I think, probably want to look towards dive potential now. You've got really good frontline protection, and now you've got some dive with this Achilles locked in. I like how this interacts with the Jing Chen. Sure, the HP 5 going to help you out and stay out of that execute threshold, but getting them low, pretty important. And with Jing Chen being primary initiator for the Camelot Kings, I think will open himself up to that execute pretty often. Neith and Oleron locked in for the Camelot Kings. Global pressure towards Freya, pretty important, I think. You want that World Weaver on her, just on cooldown.
Okay, then. So, double Guardian, double Warrior out of the Oni Warriors. We saw them, I believe they took a very similar style of draft in Game 1 against the Dragons. So they had a Nemesis mid. So if I'm looking at this, Artio to the solo lane, Ganesh to the support role. Probably don't see those going any other place. Would you rather have Achilles or Vamana in potentially mid/ADC, depending where this Freya goes?
Oh, man. I hate it when I have to guess, man. And
It's
everybody
not fun.
hates having to guess, but looking at this draft, I think it is almost guaranteed that Neath is going mid, right? Like, that's BigManTingz.
Right,
like,
for Kings,
that has to be Neath going mid. So, who deals with Neath the best? Who could stick to that target the most easily? I kind of like the Achilles matchup, but Vamana into her is not so bad. It's an interesting interaction. Yeah, I'll go Vamana. Sure,
Yeah.
we'll say Vamana mid. You can have CC immunity so that the Unravel is not really dealing with your attack speed. Backflip being such a telegraphed escape means the Colossal Fury should be able to chase out with relative ease. The dash will have to be used intelligently by Vamana because the root can just stop you in your tracks. But not the weirdest thing I've ever seen, I guess.
I mean, you got a triple magical core. You got now 2 physicals to get some damage out there, so you have a decent mix of damage. And I guess maybe thankfully for us, we have been informed that it is a Vamana versus Neath mid matchup between these two. So at least some analysis points for you. We'll be able to hold on to that one. But if you are this Neath dealing with Vamana, you don't want to deal with Vamana. You don't want to try and box into that one. And you mentioned the global presence being able to try and deal with this Neath. So if you are the Camelot Kings, if you are CaptainTwig on this Osiris, do you now just run that pressure over to dual lane and just try and ignore this Vamana entirely early on?
Yeah, I think it depends, right? If Vamana's playing aggressive and you're expecting Vamana to play aggressively, dashing on wave, moving up, playing on tower line, sure, try and gank him. You've got the ability to deal with Colossal Fury very early on with Lord of the Afterlife, removing that healing. Generally, you have to wait on that Onk. Otherwise, never ask me where you're going to put your aggression if Freya's on the map.
True.
It's almost always going to be there.
Very fair. That's on me. And now it's on the Camelot Kings and the Oni Warriors to decide who's going to take game number 1. To do that, we're going to throw it over to Dave and Trelly.
That's right. It's time we decipher these drafts just a bit as the Oni Warriors and the Camelot Kings will end the first round-robin portion of their second phase. And implications, as far as standings go, pretty high going into this matchup. The Oni Warriors and the Camelot Kings both towards the top of the standings. Kings drop one to the Leviathans last weekend and therefore no longer undefeated. But the Oni Warriors have been playing some good Smite recently. So I'm excited for this one, Trelly, as Dardas will indeed be playing the Vamana mid. I don't know if we've seen much Freya mid. I don't imagine we will see much Freya mid, but Vamana mid for Dardas against BigManTingz feels like a ranked style of pick, but here we are in the SPL.
Yeah, I'm interested to see how it plays out for sure. Tanks more so are going to get a lot of value in the early and then fall off later on if the Camelot Kings are able to itemize and get this damage and the shred online. The tanks will fall off a little bit. Since you have a Freya, I guess that's the plan, right? The Oni Warriors are either going for full early game aggression with the rest of this draft, and then, if they do get delayed, they'll be like, hey, we got to vote, and that's the backup plan. BigManTingz, I don't envy trying to lane against Dardas, though. You're going to outrange him. You're going to be able to, sort of put him in his place for a bit, but I would say once that ult comes out, probably just want to sit underneath that tower.
But yeah, as long as Dardas can hang out behind the minion wave while he's clearing, going to be difficult. Outside of abilities, of course, with auto attacks, BigManTingz will have a tough time, but abilities might be able to find some poke damage. An early 2v1, but Nika sustains up just fine. And I also don't envy BigManTingz suddenly with his ult selection, right? I mean, because so often with this Camelot Kings team, it's World Weaver early. CaptainTwig tends to play something with good follow-up. Speaking of follow-up, boat is low and so is Neoma. Had to use the sprint to get out. And Netrioid and Genetics win the early poke battle between the two magical ADCs. There's a lot of CC immunity, though, on the map that BigManTingz is going to have to worry about. I mean, Fatal Strike, you don't want to use it in that type of situation, but Vote has Valkyrie's Discretion. Dardas will have Colossal Fury. Feels like only a couple really, really good targets for BigManTingz to put the ult on.
I mean, on the flip side, I think I feel bad for Vote because he's getting ulted, right? Like he's the.
Okay, well, it still stuns you right when you're done, I suppose.
Well, my point is that who else would BigManTingz find that value on? Like, sure, you can force out the Colossal Fury because Dardas doesn't have the beats, but late game when you have that Hidden Blade build, you're probably just trying to one-shot vote.
Yeah,
more
right.
often than not, just hey, the main damage you of that carry late is I'm gonna keep sending World Weaver your way, and it looks like both junglers looking at the solo lane.
Cubo Fred over towards solo, but so is CaptainTwig. Cubo Fred loves running down targets early on in the game as Achilles. Has looked good as of late. There's the root on the CaptainTwig, just waiting on those cooldowns back. But a nice double root from Variety clips any more aggression, though the blue buff still being invaded. So, fighting may arrive at the doorstep of Cubo Fred and Nika, but blue buff secured by the Kings means no more mana. Although Cubo Fred wouldn't have picked it up anyway.
Yeah,
But
Variety
no
played
first
that
blood
pretty well.
drops. Variety did play that well. Good banish. And Neuma will survive. A little bit of pokes and prods, action all over the map.
Yeah, we'll save that hook slam to make sure to cancel out Nika's dash, and then use that Furious Roar to help confirm his own blue buff, even with some targeted aggression. I mean, given you got the Warrior, Guardian, solo, jungle matchup going for both sides, you're not going to see too much sparks fly, just a possible blue buff invade. And then I'm like, okay, so maybe we'll look towards mid. And then BigManTingz sees a Vamana, and it's not like he wants to try and fight that. Sure, he can farm up, hit level 5 first, which he did, and now World Weaver is going to be a little bit more useful throughout the map. You can look towards the duo lane, look towards, you know, wherever CaptainTwig is. So, hey, you got a kill opportunity, I got the ult charged and ready, that sort of thing. But I imagine a lot of slap fighting, and more so the Oni Warriors trying to get as aggressive as they can, because their comp, I think it is on a bit of a timer. Even with vote on this Freya, I imagine it gets so much harder to kill with you know, Netrioid with the Sanctified Field group is 5. If he can outrun the Colossal Fury, Dardas is going to have some trouble.
Well, BigManTingz now the one alongside CaptainTwig you expect to be impacting the map. Vote the only one on the Oni Warriors with beads. They're down for 5 seconds. They'll be back here shortly. But he'll have Valkyrie's discretion up in no time, soon at level 5. So that's, I think, the next thing to look for here. CaptainTwig with Blink, and Blink in, initiate, follow up on World Weaver. It just depends on what the Camelot Kings feel like they've got as far as openings go. Dardas will build into that Katana tree. Bit of poking and prodding around the mid lane Harpies, but end up not being much fighting around that. I believe we've seen Golden Blade. When do we see something more unique? I think it was over in the solo lane we saw Golden Blade get built. It wasn't a Horus or anything like that. At any rate, Golden Blade could help Dardas out with some lane farm here, and might end up just building it like a jungler would build the Vamana. Like CaptainTwig would like to build the Vamana on the flip side.
Yeah, the itemization should be the Golden Blade, and then as much movement speed as you can early. And then, again, the question is, do you have the DPS to try and burst through, you know, I mean, burst through, stomp through, whatever the phrase would be for how Colossal Fury works.
I'll stick with Stomp.
Yeah,
I like Stomp.
Yeah, he just steps on, and that's the process there. So
Right.
You're up against 2 ADCs late game. Netrioid is definitely going to be dropping the Sanctified Fields, and CaptainTwig has 100% anti-heal. So you're either going like sort of hybrid, because you're going to be able to out-damage with the healing, and then if you get Cursed Onk, if you get that Lord of the Afterlife on you, you want to be a little bit tanky. So again, Dardas has this planned out. I'm sure he's been holding this in the back pocket, just waiting until an Oleron came through to try it out. If it works, he's a genius. If it doesn't, it's gonna be a rough one.
Yeah, I don't know if it doesn't work, I don't think he's like dumb for having made this pick, right?
No, I would never say that.
I admire the creativity. Yeah, I don't think any of us casters have the ability to. Mifflin might take that reach, but I don't think any of the rest of us would. Even Miff, I think, would be smarter than to say anything like that about any of our SPL pros. Yeah, I do admire the creativity, though, because the Oni Warriors were the style of team for a while, especially last year before everyone got here, got in studio, felt a bit stuck in their ways as far as how they played the game. Seems like Cubo Fred's added a bit of variety into his god pool. Seems like Dardas has as well. And the Oni Warriors have looked so much better here over the last couple months of play. So, again, I think creativity, trying out unique play styles, never a bad thing, especially like halfway through the year. Try to find some stuff that works, maybe return to it a bit later on. First World Weaver of the game reaches Nika, who is sent back by the Whirlwind of Rage and Steel. Should be a long chase down here, but Important damaging abilities miss, but CaptainTwig hits the most important one. That'll be first blood to the Camelot Kings.
Yeah, they did immune out the World Weaver stun with Variety's Whirlwind of Rage and Steel, but it looks like they want some more. They're going for the blue buff. Cubo doesn't have a great steal opportunity here, and that one's going to go down as BigManTingz and Tartas are just boxing over here as well. If Variety was saving that hook slam to try and cancel out the dash, Nika waited out perfectly, gets away. But CaptainTwig's not going to let that kill go, and they were able to claim first blood. The gold lead heavily in favor of the Camelot Kings even before that first blood came through, and that's just the nature of clearing a little bit better, right?
That is the Kings to a T.
Yeah, I mean, you're clearing a little better. Netrioid actually uses the beads to steal that, then goes to the engage.
No shot! Netrioid takes this fight. A 2 versus 1? And is actually looking pretty good in it. Neoma and Vote both down to half HP. Purple buff gets confirmed by Netrioid, uses beads, takes the purple, drops the ult, and sends Neoma and Vote on a ticket back to base, though Neoma still hanging around. That shows you Olaran feeling pretty good now, had Ring of Hecate online, and Mannequin Scepter, so maybe just by nature, out trades just a bit. But look, the duo lane specifically for the Camelot Kings is always so consistent, right? But I would say maybe not the flashiest. Specifically Netrioid, a very consistent player. But as of late, hasn't been the flashiest player. So I love seeing moments like that from Netrioid. Just feeling the confidence a bit, I think, early here in Game 1.
Yeah, I imagine there is going to be a potential kill here. I just don't think enough damage will come through, and Variety realized that as well as it started flying. Even a level 2 Neathel, once you hit 9, you can put that second point in. It's not going to be doing that much damage. So BigManTingz unfortunately wastes that one, but still a little bit of extra pressure in that lane. I think Netrioid is not afraid, right? If you're going to use your beads and your ult on a purple buff, that says, I am not afraid of this lane in the slightest.
Why?
Like, both of my safety tools are now gone. I imagine Cubo Fred should see that as an opportunity to go left, but he's on the right side of the map. Trebuchet coming down mid. Looks like the Oni Warriors aren't too concerned with the duo lane at the moment. They're just trying to let Vote farm up as much as possible. Unfortunate for your buff, but can't help you out just yet.
Unfortunately, that also means Netrioid's going to be farming up as much as possible. If you're leaving Vote on an island, you're doing the same for Netrioid as well. So we get a glimpse at the mid lane skirmish, but Dardas won't stick around too much longer. First Trebuchet of the game. Spawns up for the Oni Warriors over in the mid lane. And so at least the rotational pressure, some of those back camps, been pressured out by the Oni Warriors, been able to fill up the obelisk early on here in game number 2, or game number 1 rather. But the Camelot Kings, the style of team that slowly build up these leads, and then eventually when the first big objective fight happens, the Oni Warriors are like, well, dang, we're 3,000 gold behind. What happened here? Nothing. We lost some buffs, we lost some camps, I guess, but like itemization-wise, we're 500 gold behind on everyone, is what it feels like. Experience, not much better. A 1-level lead in effectively every role except solo lane. This is just what the Kings do best. What they weren't able to do against the Leviathans, but are now able to do in game 1 against the Oni Warriors.
Yeah, and the Warriors, I think, just sort of sitting by the wayside. We haven't seen too much aggression, more so just, BigManTingz throws out an ult, and that's the end of it. Maybe Cubo tries to fend a buff here or there. Now the execute could come into play. There's a few tanky targets on the opposition. Obviously the Oni Warriors have picked 4 tanks, but the Camelot Kings still have 3, right? It could be some big health bars that you're trying to take away with Fatal Strike. It's just not any targeted aggression, right? Cubo's just been running to farm as much as possible. Maybe not feeling like they're on as much of a timer as it seems to me specifically.
Right, it does seem that way.
Yeah, because he just, even when, again, Netrioid used the beads and the Sanctified Field, seems like a pretty decent opportunity to try and find that Olaran in left lane. We're going to see no targeted aggression, so just back to the old drawing board. Pyromancer and Goldfury standing tall about 11 minutes in, and it looks like still just going to be playing the farm game.
Yeah, I wonder, objective burn-wise, if Camelot Kings, maybe with a bit of the lead they've got. Cubo Fred is actually going to take the ultimate, but needs the World Weaver. Fatal strikes away, as we so often see, and well-timed for Cubo Fred. Nika sent back in the Whirlwind of Rage and Steel. Good opportunity for the Kings to get another kill rolling, and Lord of the Afterlife from CaptainTwig agrees. Nika down as Cubo Fred tethered, but the safety of the Tier 2 tower arrives. And the crit damage actually early here from BigManTingz. Dardes into the Colossal Fury, but he's doing a whole lot of nothing, and the Camelot Kings have mitigated it all. Find 1 kill, half health another 2 targets, and steal away a blue buff. It's what the Kings do best. further extending out their lead.
Yeah, now they are just going to be able to go for the Pyromancer here. I don't imagine the 20% Vamana is going to be stepping up to this one, and it's going to go down for absolute free. I mean, yeah, given the build path, 4,000 gold lead, Dardes can maybe steal away a red buff here, but BigManTingz knows he's here, so he's going to make the rotation over. It is going to go down. I'm trying to see when exactly the Oni Warriors are going to start pulling the trigger on something, right? Are they playing for level 20 now that you're 4K down? You lost the first objective, you lost I mean, they weren't really fights. It was 2 picks total. But that was our first glimpse at the big baby, the Colossal Fury, and it was more so used to run away.
He looked like a big baby. He was crying and left.
Yeah, he ran all the way
ran
home.
off. That's all that babies do, right? They cry and leave, I guess. Wouldn't know. The point is, we haven't seen much from the Oni Warriors. I guess the execute from Cubo Fred will be important later on in the game, Trelly, especially with how tanky Variety, maybe Twig, but really Variety and Genetics finishing off some of the higher health targets. I mean, you got to get them down to that threshold anyway is still an issue, but feels like maybe you're hoping that Cubo Fred will get to a point where the executes can kind of roll in some of these fights, because it's just been just such a slow burn of a game. And the Camelot Kings super happy with that, with the way that things have gone. I wouldn't be surprised you start to see some pressure flow towards the left side of the map here. Gold Fury up. And build starting to roll a bit for both of the magical ADCs. Netrioid's gone. Typhon's after Ring of Hecate. Double ring build for Vote. Give him some power over on right. Dardes now targeted. Dharmic Pillars, nice. Keeps Dardes in place. And keeps the Camelot Kings at bay. But as we so often have seen in this game, an ult from BigManTingz does not necessarily turn it into a kill. Yeah, and it looks like the Camelot Kings are going to head for the Gold Fury. Vote sees this immediately and should be calling it out to the team with that Draconic Transformation. The DPS is going to be good. Oh, nobody's rotating. And Vote's not even going to step up for a Valkyrie's Destruction shot or two. This is just going to be a free Gold Fury after a free Pyromancer. Maybe BigManTingz will pay for it. Gotta be a kill here. Has to be a kill on the BigManTingz. Yes, all right. So the only Warriors pick up a kill. But they've lost so much of the rest of the map. 4.3k gold, at least experience dips down a little bit by about 1,000 or so for the Oni Warriors. Gives Dardes a nice assist. I was going to say, the positioning of the Warriors had me raising my eyebrows just a second there. I was like, no way. They're thinking Fire Giant. Variety just outside of Fatal Strike threshold. And so another kill will escape the Oni Warriors. This is maybe the best the Oni Warriors can do. BigManTingz is down, let's steal away some farm, maybe try to force the Kings into a fight, and that's exactly what is happening. Dharmic Pillars almost back for Neoma, the Silence doing well, Fatal Strike sent around the Dharmic Pillars, and Variety will live, and suddenly the World Weaver from base hits Neoma, but just not enough damage for follow-up. Yeah, and I don't think there's any more chase opportunity, but Genetics pops the sprint, so he seems to think the Variety's gonna have the root on a double root, but who's got the damage to follow up with this? Nobody yet. It's a blink in on a very low health Variety, tether out from CaptainTwig. Yeah, and I think you're aborting this mission now if you're the Camelot Kings. Pick up some damage onto the Oni Warriors. Oni Warriors able to pick up the Pyromancer on the flip side, but now a tier 1 tower in mid goes down with all of the Oni Warriors' eyes there towards right. I was surprised to see no Oni Warriors rotate into that Gold Fury. I guess the answer for them was, we can't fight, so let's just try to get a pick. Yeah, and if you can't fight then, maybe you can fight in the jungle, able to find that one kill, so Cubo is going to have a decent bit of gold flowing his way on this Achilles jungle. But, not translating into too much. It's early on, I imagine as the game goes on, the objective burn for the Oni Warriors will get better. As we both highlighted, looking at that grouping around the FG, they really were just looking for Variety to step up, but it looked almost as if they were thinking about it. And then looking at the build path, there's just no way they have the DPS to go for a Fire Giant at a time like this. Later on, in an economy like this? Yeah, in this economy, I'm like, a Fire Giant? For real? They can't even swing the Pyromancer. Yeah, the Oni Warriors are feeling the pressure of the rest of us right now. That's what it feels like. Camelot Kings riding high, doing just fine. But here's what's worrying about games like this, is it's eventually the Oni Warriors, and I guess that's the conversation, is when is that eventually? But eventually they have to make the decision, this is what we're fighting over, because the Kings are so good at all right, Pyromancer's going to be up in about 15 seconds. let's group up over here and just take it. And the Oni Warriors, up to this point, have said, we're just too far behind. I don't want to fight over just a Pyromancer. And then a minute and a half after that, the Fury's up, and the Kings do it again. And then you're like 30 minutes into the game, and you're down by 10,000 gold, and it's still 2-1 in kills, and you're wondering where the game went. And so that's ultimately where the Oni Warriors have to, as a team, decide, where is that line drawn? Can we find a pick? Can we find an advantage somewhere? Because, I don't know, Trelly, with the way the slow burn of this game has gone up to this point, I haven't seen that aggression from the Warriors yet. And so to your point, maybe a bit later on, the confidence builds up just a bit. But it's not like the Camelot Kings draft gets worse, right? I mean, a lot of that damage starts to roll for them as well.
It seems like they're waiting for the itemization from Vote and Dardes, which essentially means Dardes will have the damage to box with these other ADCs. He'll have the movement speed to chase them down.
Yeah.
The issue with that is you're up against Genetics, who has the sprint and the upgraded Ankh. So whenever Dardes does go into the ult, you're either getting ran away from or turned and burned on. It's why I think it's so curious that Vamana keeps popping up into the meta, because once these teams understand how to play against it and how to really not let them get ahead in the early, it's all about player, right? Will Dardes be able to find those opportunities to bait out a Cursed Ankh or not fight around someone with Cursed Ankh, in this case Genetics? And so far hasn't been going fantastic, but I think the itemization is a little bit more online. You have the execute late game, which helps you out, and you got a Freya who's got 2 rings, so it is getting a little bit better, but the problem is it's also getting better for the Kings.
And the Kings send themselves to the Pyromancer. Do the Oni Warriors respond? I suppose Neoma at least drops Dharmic Pillar. See if you can get a steal. Okay, I'm wrong. And the Camelot Kings show up, take the Pyromancer, and back themselves away.
Long-haired Neil goes for that.
You think?
Yeah.
You think the hair diff?
Yeah, big hair diff. Since he got a haircut, he lost a little bit of his confidence on the objective still. He'll get it back.
Maybe.
He'll get it back. Don't worry.
Right, in like 6 months. I don't know. That was a long. That was like season 8 hair.
That might have been a year and a half, 2 years almost.
All right, Neil. We'll talk to you in a couple of years when the hair has grown back. A World Weaver connects onto Dardes here, but a good silence from Neoma dispels any further aggression. So we know the Oni Warriors have good disengage. Just haven't seen it used as far as engage goes just yet. Dharmic Pillar's down. Here we go. And Netrioid slowed, blinked on by Dardes, but a Sanctified Field says goodbye.
Okay.
Genetics banished, stunned, and body blocked, but he'll be able to leap out to Netrioid, and the Camelot Kings just backpedaling down the lane as Valkyrie's discretion up from both. Sense of damage to the Kings, who are all grouped up here, receiving some help from the rest of the squad, and Lord of the Afterlife puts one down. The Oni Warriors able to at least trade. BigManTingz full health in the backline of this fight. CaptainTwig barely survives, much the opposite. Genetic tossed to the sky, but Neoma and Vote are as well. Exchanging blows are both of these teams. Genetics desperately trying to get away from Nika. Won't be able to do so as Vote has gotten his second kill of the game.
Yeah, so an actual decent fight back here. It looks like the Oni Warriors were just looking for an opportunity to try and chase this one down. Variety is not ready to give up just yet. Vote was free casting. I think that's the biggest issue. When you're up against 4 tanks, they're sponging so much damage, it's difficult to find someone to focus out, and I think Freya would have been the preferred target. And Cubo's execute a little bit off the mark. If he got that kill on the Netrioid, could have got a reset, and it would have been a little bit more interesting. Vote forced into the Aegis, and CaptainTwig's already back.
Aegis and beads, nice double banish from Vote. But Nika has stuck around. Whirlwind of Rage and Steel. Easy pickings onto the Freya, and CaptainTwig deals the killing blow. And Vote now MIA for 45 seconds. And I was assuming there would be an immediate Primal Fury pull by the Kings, because Freya is off the map, but looks like slow play is the name of the game. 1,000 gold has built up over the last few minutes or so. XP has remained somewhat stable, but stably behind for the Oni Warriors. All this coming up Camelot Kings still. Yeah, you win a nice fight, you get Vote a couple of kills, but still a better economy trade for the Camelot Kings.
Yeah, and the fight did look good. It was just, I think, using the World Weaver, actually CaptainTwig might have to just ult over the wall. There's a little bit too many bodies here, as it looks once again like they could be posturing for a Fire Giant attempt, and they decide, no, we're going to go for a blue buff invade because we still don't have the DPS to try and do that. You got 2 kills on the Vote, though, so the Oni Warriors probably happy about that, losing the Fury after the fact, and, both relics being down for Vote after you get 2 kills and you're not able to disengage, not going to be your greatest strength, but we're seeing the build sort of peter out here, and Dardes has not itemized into any bit of tank stats just yet. Usually this Vamana goes for like a last item Mantle of Discord. If everyone groups around the Vamana, at least it's a massive stun that you can get when your HP gets low. You get like 2 or 3 extra auto attacks in the Colossal Fury with that. But because of the Bumbas, you got to assume Bumba Spear coming through. I'm interested to see how much Dardes is able to do at about that level 20 mark.
Yeah.
Because the anti-heal hasn't been that prioritized. It's just the Toxic Blade and the Curse Donk. If those 2 things aren't, if CaptainTwig's not on point with the Lord of the Afterlife, which he hasn't been ulting Dardes yet. He's been using it for, you know, engage to the backline.
Right.
And if Genetics only gets to onk once in a fight, maybe there's an opportunity for Dardes to find a second ult where he can just run down.
BigManTingz considering letting an ult go, but we'll hold on to it. The last fight went on for so long and just a couple of kills dropped. It made me realize that, yes, the damage will scale up, but so will the tankiness. And just because of the team members of both sides, we have the potential for some long-winded fights here in this game specifically. Fire Giant burning quickly, though, and the Camelot Kings, the objective-minded team, the ones who started. Sanctified Field down, and the Kings confirm the Fire Giant and a kill onto Dardes, who walked in, shed a tear, walked out, and the World Weaver onto Nika. Might just confirm another Lord of the Afterlife. Up, down, yes please. CaptainTwig on a rampage, and the Kings maybe sunsetting the game here in game 1.
Yeah, I mean, I was sort of, you know, treading on thin ice with calling that Dardes missed the boat for this Vamana to get online, and I was waiting and I was waiting. I was thinking maybe eventually he's going to get the use out of it, but that right there is what's going to happen for the rest of the game. Curse Donk gets popped, Vamana gets one shot at the end. End of story. The Colossal Fury did nothing there, and the whole idea was, hey, I'm going to immune the Sanctified Field, maybe get an auto attack on fire, and then disengage. You can't do that when you just get one shot. Neilma drops the Dharma's Pillars, but this Phoenix is going to get focused down.
Oh my god. Phoenix. I mean, this is a perfect call. Nice banish, but what does it matter when really it's just Neil who ends up dying? This has just been a stifling game from the Camelot Kings. I mean, think about it. The last 4 minutes of game time is where we got another 3 kills for the Kings, 4 kills for the Kings. Up to that point, it was a 4-3 kill game, a 2-1 kill game earlier on for like 15 minutes. This has not been a high-octane, high-action game, but the chess pieces that the Kings have been moving around is what we've talked about all year long. The World Weavers have been forcing defensive ultimates. You want that Fatal Strike to finish off the tanks. The Kings just have not been giving the Oni Warriors that opportunity. Another great banish from Vote. And this time the Oni Warriors may be able to capitalize. The gold has not been spent from the Fire Giant, but the Kings still so far ahead in slot anyway. Down goes Dardes. 0-3 now in this game for the Oni Warriors mid laner. Cubo Fred falls to 1-2, and a Sanctified Field should confirm the death of the mid lane Phoenix.
And it looks like they will just be backing off. Not going to look for the full end. There's still 2 towers left on the left-hand side. Once again, unfortunately, as you mentioned, Cubo to use the ult defensively because that World Weaver came through. You don't want to take a 1v1 versus the level 6, or the 6-0 Osiris, not level 6, when you're getting stunned like that, so ult out, disengage. Dardes goes to the backline essentially by himself and gets shredded down just as quickly. That wasn't even the Curse Donk. Genetics used the Curse Donk after the fact, so this is just raw damage that you can't fight into. The gold lead, as you highlighted again, hasn't even been spent. Now they're finally going to spend all that gold in hand, and the Camelot Kings will be able to finish off the rest of these builds, or at least close to it, and push in down the left side of the map and try and break the base fully. 2 birds down, it's essentially broken, but you know, you would love to grab those towers and then just put this game to rest. I don't see any shining rays of hope anymore for the Only Warriors.
No.
You know, Vote sold his starter item just for a tier 1 ring, maybe thinking it would help in the grand scheme of things. I think it gave just enough gold to finish that ob shard for the fight, maybe fearing if we lose this, the game's over. So it's just not even a late game starter item power spike for Vote. I'm not seeing too many avenues back into them to win this one.
Let's see how much damage this is about to take. Oh my god, from the World Weaver. That's Hidden Blade, Titan's Bane, and then of course the rest of the build. As BigManTingz and the rest of the Camelot Kings will walk their way down the left side of the map. I don't see this faring much better for the Oni Warriors. I think maybe one more big fight is all the Camelot Kings end up needing to close things out here in game number 1. A transformation from Genetics might just get it done. Hold on to the actives for now. Kivo Fred in behind, yes, but is he immediately just going to get turned on and melted down by the rest of the Camelot Kings. Sanctified Field, Cubo Fred turned on, melted down by the Camelot Kings. Has to Fatal Strike away, and Dardes will be the first to go down. Cubo Fred could be the second, but is able to blink off to the side, and Variety chases him down. Now the Oni Warriors down to 3, but also down to 0 Phoenixes remaining on the map. The Camelot Kings from minute 1 have slowed down the Oni Warriors. And think about it, Trevor, even after First Blood, it was just First Blood for the longest time, the gold lead was still like 2,500 in climbing for the Camelot Kings a couple minutes into this game. And now the Kings got a real good look and a real good shout at ending out game number 1. A couple members of the Oni Warriors will simply watch their Titan being burned.
Yeah, again, I think the Oni Warriors props them for trying to find an interesting way to counter out this double ADC draft, but they missed the boat from getting behind early on. I think that's the only time you can really snowball away a game with Vamana where you can actually box into double ADC late. And since you're 2K gold down just from the rip, you missed the boat. They weren't able to get that comp online.
That is a brutal game number 1. If you're the Kings, you love it because that's your game plan. That's just how the Kings play Smite. It is a First Blood that turns into. It really is interesting. Have you seen those YouTube videos where a guy starts with like a penny and trades it into a pen, and then like by the end of the YouTube series, it turns into like a car or something like that.
Or something, yeah.
That's how the Camelot Kings play Smite. It feels like they turn, sometimes not even a First Blood. They turn like a blue buff invade into a Greater Scorpion Steel, which turns into a Pyromancer, which eventually turns into a Free Fury, and then they convert that into a Fire Giant, and then all 3 Phoenixes, and then the game just ends. And it all started with 1 blue buff invade and not a whole lot else. The Camelot Kings play a fun brand of Smite, and it works out here in game 1. Back to the drawing board for the Oni Warriors before game number 2, which is coming up next.
This might be the most nuanced question anyone has ever asked me. Chicken tenders or nuggets? Now here's the merits of both. And then we do a time cut for 5 hours later and pretend I've been talking about them for so long. What do I prefer? Do I prefer tendies or nuggies? I prefer tendies. Tendies are better. The breading to meat ratio is just better because you get a little bit more. I guess it depends on the breading, but like tendies.
Tenders 100%.
I think it depends on the establishment. If we're talking like the Chimkin, definitely looking at nuggies, but if we're talking like Gatsby's or like the Canes, definitely tendies.
Nuggets.
I just always prefer chicken tenders.
Probably nugs, because some days you're nugging.
Tendies, because you get more chicken.
Oof. It's gotta be nuggets.
I like both. But I think nuggets. I think nuggets are easy to eat. You can eat more nuggets than more chicken tender probably. I mean, it depends though, but yeah.
I think nuggies are the #1 choice.
Probably nuggets. Chicken tenders.
Are they not the same thing?
Chicken tenders or nuggets?
Are they not the same thing?
Chicken tenders, nuggets are fake.
Chicken tenders.
Nuggies.
Chicken tenders. I'm a nuggies fan. I'll go for some nuggies.
I don't eat meat, so I guess neither.
It's got to be nuggets, especially if it's a UK chicken nuggets from McDonald's. Seriously, that's just.
Neither. I've never had either of those. Well, I've had like nuggets, but I've never had good tendies. So I guess nuggets, I guess is.
You have to leave him in saying that he's never had it either, and there's question marks. Okay.
I've never had tenders. I'm sorry. Oh, those are chicken tenders? Oh, tenders, for sure.
Bro.
I don't eat a lot of chicken.
Simple in the Chevy I skate. Thank the Lord every time I wait. Lace my shoes and I get to that gate. Heads up, I'm coming. This is all we ever wanted. Go and stack it by the hundreds. This is all we ever wanted. Down, I'ma ride with the gang. My whole life engine brake. Head up in the clouds when I levitate. We don't spit game, we just educate. 10-10-80, had a paper straight. Couldn't get it back then, so I had to wait. Now the money come to me, so I don't have to chase. I don't gotta flash none, I don't gotta fake, darling. We not practicing, we ballin'. And heads up, I'm coming. This is all we ever wanted. Yeah. Go and stack it by the hundreds. Yeah. Heads up, I'm coming. Heads up, I'm coming. This is all we ever wanted. This is all we ever wanted. Go and stack it by the hundreds. This is all we ever wanted. I'ma ride with the gang. My whole life I've been doing my thing. Get that money, ain't no thing. Anything I do for the gang. 10 toes down, I'ma ride with the gang. My whole life I've been doing my thing. Get that money, ain't no thing. Anything I do for the gang. Yeah.
Crashing the pine on the marble floor. Yeah, put up that sign I read love and joy. Yeah, I want more. Yeah, she want more. Ornaments works with the flashing lights. She only will hit to a certain song. Her channel is orange, white flannel thong. Come tag along, come tag along. Crash, love lost in a man. Look left, tiptoe to the fan. Scream, take off in the jam. Skid out, crash now. Got a chance. 15 on the blue man. Brain dance with a finger on the trigger. 8 chance if we playing on the bill. Same 10 if you standing on the pillar.
Said it in right. We took it deep down, been at the cloud. We took a true stand, said it in right.
Let's liven things up, shall we? Come, the party's this way.
I'm hungry.
Be sure to grab some brew.
Yes, that will do. Time to eat.
Let the heavens rain! Let's keep this going all night.
Back to the SMITE Pro League, the Camelot Kings are able to round themselves up a victory in game number 1 over the Oni Warriors, and all that brought to us by our good friends over at Alienware for powering our players in the booth, at home, as well as the production, and us even here on the desk. So make sure you go to SMITEGame.com/Alienware, use code AWSMITE09 to see all the cool gear that the players are playing on for themselves, and see what you can get as well by using that code out there. Follow Alienware on their social medias, on Twitter and Instagram at Alienware. Go to alienwarearena.com to see what great stuff that they have to offer, even just outside of their great machines there. So thank you so much, Alienware, for coming back in Season 9 of the SMITE Pro League. J-Mac and Mifflin joining me once again on the desk to break down game number 1 and get us set up for game 2. And I'm going to take a line from you, Mifflin, real quick to try and help analyze.
If you take mine, what will I say?
Okay, maybe I'll lead you into the line. So traditional SMITE
works for a reason?
There you go.
Oh, nice. Traditional for a reason.
Yeah, it's traditional SMITE for a reason.
Oh, nice.
And it seems that seems to be the way the Camelot Kings find a victory over here. The unconventional draft out of the Oni Warriors is Vamana Min. Couldn't quite get the job done in game 1.
Yeah, I liked the idea, right? Because in execution, and we only get to see it in execution exactly once from the Oni Warriors, but the strategy was, all right, we'll just have Neoma rotate through, Dharmic Pillars forces backflip, backflips down, Dardes sticks to him. And it's a simple plan, but opportunities, I think, hard to come by to put it into action. And when the opportunities are so difficult, that means at times the Oni Warriors will probably be put into a position where they are feeling that they're forced to make their move at any given time. And that happened, I believe, twice or thrice throughout the match where they rotate through. They're like, all right, well, we got to shut down BigManTingz. And it was an overextension from Dardes that eventually puts this Vamana pretty far behind. We had hypothesized on the initial desk that a lot of those global ultimates would have found their way to Vote. But for the most part, Vote goes untouched. I believe only 2 deaths throughout this game. But the rest of the Oni Warriors not nearly as lucky. And when the game groups up and when we get to these late game engagements and it's a 5-on-5 initiation, it's not, hey, we had a Vamana mid. It's, hey, we don't have a standard mage. Hey, we just got a different kind of draft. And the draft did not look so good. I think had they been able, the Oni Warriors that is, to establish a lead, we'd be talking about, oh, they are trendsetters, pioneers, figuring out new ways to address the early game. But when it doesn't work, it just doesn't look very good.
No, not the greatest performance across the board for the Oni Warriors. Vo did it, managed to pick up a couple of kills of his own during there, so still able to show some prowess on the Freya. There was one point in the highlight where he finds a nice double banish up against CaptainTwig and then up against BaRRaCCuDDa, I believe, as well on that Xing. And I was like, all right, cool, Vo's out. And then he pops his stems and he walked right back into melee range against it. And I'm sitting there questioning, going, why would he make a play like that? And then all of a sudden there's still the Neath ultimate because now BigManTingz has rotated himself back over there. So the Camelot Kings come up with a nice win in game number 1. Now it's up to the adaptation of the Oni Warriors. And going through some of the history of these two teams, in Phase 1 was the only time that the Oni Warriors in the franchise history has found a set win over the Camelot Kings. So it's not unheard of for them to be able to make some kind of a comeback here and try and turn around. But the Camelot Kings playing very clean smite in game 1, looking to continue that in game 2.
So what will the adaptations be from the Oni Warriors trying to break that phase-long curse up against the Camelot Kings? I think that's one good start. Take BigManTingz off of one of his favorite picks, the Neath. We've been seeing a lot of Poseidon bans going his way recently as well. Wouldn't be surprised if that's an option for the Oni Warriors. If they don't, pretty likely that the Camelot Kings will just attempt to take it for themselves. Bans are quick, again, but no Poseidon.
No Poseidon banned away. Now, notably, it's not just Neath and Poseidon that BigManTingz has been playing. He had a Nuwa, a Huang, a Baba Yaga, and a Merlin all in those. And unfortunately, the only one of those that did win was the Merlin. Didn't find success on the other 3 of those picks. So, still a lot of picks out there for BigManTingz to go to, but I think you're right to highlight the fact that Poseidon has made its way through.
Really?
Osiris, the first pick for the Oni Warriors, and Xing very early in the draft for the Camelot Kings.
Yeah, I was just assuming, like, if we are taking our soul laner, it's probably just Artio, right? But Xing seems to be the answer. Decent matchup into Osiris immediately, just getting rid of some of that auto attack damage. But as far as just, like, consistent laning presence, Totem Aku control, you want a Guardian frontliner, I feel like Artio is just a little bit better than everybody else. But Artio does lack one thing that Xing has got, and it's a expression that Trelly has come up with, and I've really actually been fondly adopting: linear initiation. Just a clear start to the team fight. Blink, Whirlwind of Rage and Steel, or double jump in, Washing Machine ultimate. Gonna start your engagements very, very well, but it does open up the door to a couple of counter selections, namely the Jing Wei. Xing ultimate kind of just doesn't work against her.
No, even if you do manage to somehow pick up the Jing Wei through beads or through an airstrike, she can just dash her way right on out. But let's talk about the Muzen comp, because it's something the Camelot Kings banned in game number 1 against the Oni Warriors, and now they picked up for themselves, and to couple that along with an Ola run for Netrioid yet again. And this Muzen comp has been seeing a lot of bans across the board. Still seems that a lot of teams are valuing the ability to shred those protections with that Stinger and just the raw damage output that this god has.
Good lane pressure, ability to rotate towards mid camps, control the farm. On Muzen comp, phenomenal scaling come late game. Can go for the ability build or a crit build, depending on how he's feeling day of. So I think makes sense the Kings go towards it themselves. The Ola run selection, though, has just, it feels like it was like today everybody decided that Ola run's good again. And I like it here because they take it after we've seen the soul laner for the Oni Warriors. Maybe that's why they leave Artio available. So valuable that the Warriors will say, yeah, just grab me that. I want it now. And it essentially removes the opportunity to go towards things like the Kamazots, the Cthulhu, the direct answers to that Sanctified Field. And even looking at Osiris and Artio, and even to a certain extent Jing Wei if Airstrike is down, none of those three have really got great answers to their time being dilated.
And you can even see that the Kings have answered by taking Sobek away as well, a god who potentially could get into that Sanctified Field to try and deal with you. You get a little bit of CC immunity whenever you land that pluck. You have the CC immune ultimate and lurking in the waters. And then an E-set, just a powerful pick in general that can still flex over towards that support role or over in the mid, would be something that Dardas could pilot over there. The Camelot Kings have put a lot of their priority in making sure to focus out the mid more than anything else with their bans. A couple of bans done that way. One over towards Huvo Fred with that dodgy from earlier on. And now taking a page out of the Oni Warriors book, Achilles will be the lock-in for the Camelot Kings.
You know, looking at this Warriors draft, you could have Osiris go back towards Soul Lane, toss your Artio into support, and then get like a Vamana for yourself. Vamana very good at chasing down Oleron through Sanctified Field. It's a lot of shuffling in your draft, but if you're concerned about finding an answer to that ability, that's one way to do so. That said, you would be sacrificing a little bit of pressure, and Artio, not the standard initiator that you would like from your Guardian support, could hurt you a bit. If we see the Oni Warriors go for a Vamana, I think it does really up their timetable. You need to establish a lead for yourself, but I wouldn't hate that answer. But even then, the Achilles into a Vamana, right? That's like as direct an answer as you can get. You might struggle to finish off a kill on a Colossal Fury, but you won't if Achilles is nearby with Fatal Strike. I talked myself out of it. I don't want to see a Vamana.
Well, it wouldn't be something that Neilma would be a stranger to playing if he did go to the Artio. It does have almost 30 games played on that God, sitting just around a little under the 50% win rate on there. So not unheard of for Neilma to play that God in that support role, but as of late, we've most exclusively seen that God go its way into the solo lane. And now with this Ganesh locked in, means that we definitely will not be seeing that Artio go that way.
To
you gotta look on your face there. Maybe this Hera changes some of the thoughts you may have had.
Well, no, not the Hera. Well, my thought around Hera is that there was a thread on Twitter recently, PBM asking who he thought the most slept-on gods are, and I believe he had put Hera in that list. Shinto responding, how's that the case? Hera's got one of the worst abilities in the game. Locked in regardless, though. And
which one does he consider the worst? Would it be the first ability?
Probably the first ability.
That's what I got. Everything else on
Polymorph owns,
Shield
Argus owns, Shield owns. It's got to be the first one. And like I guess, I mean, it's decent wave clear. I don't know that I totally agree with Shinto's analysis of the worst ability in the game, but certainly still Hera, an unorthodox selection. The question I was going to ask, and one that you probably should have been asking me because I'm the chair too.
Right.
Muzen defense shred with Stinger, or defense shred in general, interacting with Vamana's passive, does it take off his power as well?
I imagine I imagine if he Stingers after the Colossal Fury, then yes.
Yeah.
Because I imagine they all scale directly with each other.
I wonder, because like it's defense shred, not removal. Like it's a 40% like defense mitigation essentially, as opposed to like a stone cutting sword, which is actually removing your protections.
You will feel my
Yeah, that's getting into a whole lot of coding based questions that I'm not super good on myself.
I had a coffee earlier. I'm just thinking, man.
Your mind's going a mile a minute. And Camelot Kings will round out their draft with a Fafnir, so Achilles into the jungle for CaptainTwig. It's another warrior jungle. We've been seeing a lot of diversity, at least amongst there, or maybe a little bit more so. You know, previously it was just Osiris or Orlong, and then Gilgamesh whenever he's able to be played. He's kind of be sprinkled in there. But we've even seen this Achilles jungle kind of pop up a little bit more. And now with this Fafnir, objective name of the game for the Camelot Kings, but that's just been the forte of the Camelot Kings for pretty much their entire lifespan.
And they've got a good composition for it. Fafnir, Oleron, and Muzen will make quick work of just about any objective they come towards. I wonder where this Achilles is going to put the majority of his pressure. Achilles has decent ability to chase down Jingwei. With Airstrike being telegraphed which direction she's going to fly, he can kind of walk in, use that combat dodge to close that gap, and continually chase her out. Fatal Strike as well as a decent chase tool. So Jingwei is certainly one of the safest hunters, but Achilles not without tools to chase her down. Artio, probably not. If you're looking to finish off the majority of your kills with Fatal Strike, having any form of healing can make it a little bit more complicated, so don't expect to see the Achilles over towards her lane too often. Could try and chase down the Osiris in the jungle. Hera, not exactly mobile. Decent lockdown from Achilles as well. Could be that the Shield Bash finds some value there too. I like this Camelot Kings draft a lot. I think it is almost entirely contingent on how well this Achilles performs throughout the early. CaptainTwig, no stranger to being like the only early game bridge god for the Camelot Kings to get them to the late game, so no stranger to the situation as a team. Whereas the Oni Warriors, looking at their composition, you're not really expecting them to establish too much pressure in the duo lane. Oleron's clear, very, very high, or even if AMC were to flex towards duo, still outclears the Jingwei Ganesh. Artio holds her own, but handshake lane in the solo when it's two Guardians means that you're probably not playing through there too often either. Hera up against Muzen in mid. I think I still favor the Muzen there as well, so the early game is going to be the tale of the two junglers. Which one of them strikes first, strikes harder, and more consistently, Achilles or Osiris?
Yeah, Osiris over there, at least for Cuvo Fred's got to get something going. And when Cuvo Fred can have a pop-off game, it's very similar when we talk about a team like the Bolts. When LASBRA has a really good game on the Bolts, the Bolts all really look good. When Cuvo Fred has a really good game with the Oni Warriors, it's the same tale. The team looks really good. Again, similar to LASBRA and the rest of the Bolts, here the Oni Warriors have been able to kind of shore up that when Cuvo's not having the greatest game, the rest of the team has been able to rally around that. Dardas has been stepping up. Neilma and Vote in the dual lane have also been able to make their ways of kind of solidifying that. So we'll have to see if the Oni Warriors can take game number 2 or the Camelot Kings gonna run away with it. Let's jump right in.
Whoa, my goodness. We're sprinting away from one another at the start. Don't often see that. Luckily, didn't miss much, apparently, as the Camelot Kings maybe nearly caught one of the Oni Warriors off guard, but doesn't end up happening. And Charlie, as we get into game number 2 between the Kings and the Oni Warriors, it looks like we're going to need a totally different pace of game for the Oni Warriors to come back into this. Really, what you got to be more active, I think, in defending the buffs, defending the farm, and just not letting the Kings slowly bleed you out.
Yeah, that would be ideal. I think that's the game plan as of now. Try to get active early, and that's what Cuvo was just doing. He was going for a solo gank, and he got caught out. Not actually. I think he was just like warding, and they were grouped as 5 as you do. But either way, that tells me Cuvo's ready to get active. He's not afraid to take a 1v5 before the minions even spawn.
And that's a smart man. Any man who's willing to take a 1v5 is the guy who I want on my team. Twig also used Blink. Bunch of vision shards down from the Camelot Kings. And then Sprint, of course, used by Genetics as well. But all of that doesn't result in much. In the first minute or so of the game, you're not often seeing outside of maybe a level 2 gank in mid. The junglers use those blinks super aggressively. And speaking of mid, I think we got to talk about mid just a bit here, Trilly. Dardes on the Hera up against BMT on the AMC. And we're used to seeing AMCs in mid. But Hera, as the junglers and the solo laners meet. I thought we had a handshake lane over here. I guess not. Variety with a double root and then a double stun. On the flip side, Nika down to about 20% HP, but it looks like CaptainTwig unhappy with the cooldowns that he's got remaining, and both ships will pass in the night after exchanging some cannonballs with one another. But still, no ships sink just yet.
Yeah, but it looks like the Warriors got the Totem of Coup, so they get the
and that's
dub
what that's what matters,
yeah,
right?
That's what the fight was clearly for, and that's what happened at the end of it. But yeah, the Dardes on the Hera, something that he's used to, but Variety might be used to dying, as he will get first blooded.
That is harsh.
Well, I mean,
that is brutal.
It was just a
Variety's not that bad.
That's what I was saying.
Oh my God, Trelly.
All right,
you come into the casting team, and now you're Variety's used to dying, I guess. I know that's not what you were saying. You might need to get used to dying in this specific moment.
Yeah, it could be, because Cuvo Fred comes out swinging. Last game on the Achilles was playing a little passive. This time on the Osiris, not going to be the same. Blinking out of the gates, making sure to get that first blood. But Dardes on the Hera, something that he used to play a fair bit, sort of fell by the wayside, and now when you're in a 0-1 situation up against the Camelot King, to see BMT on the AMC, a very immobile character, and that you can't really juke Argus.
Right.
I think he should be able to find some success with it.
Yeah, level 5, drop Argus, drop the hammer, see if you can get something going. CaptainTwig over in solo, and another kill for the Oni Warriors. This time it's Nika. And there's just been something about these last couple of weeks, maybe last couple of days specifically, zoom in on this weekend, where the right side of the map has just been it. It's been a lot of jungle pressure over towards right. Yes, mid every once in a while. Haven't seen much in duo lane. I couldn't tell you the last time I've seen duo lane just straight up ganked in the first 5 levels of the game. It's been a lot of pressure over on right.
Yeah, and I'm not going to say that it's all matchup based, but Osiris just has such a free time into Achilles through all portions of the game. You know, Achilles combat dodge can never get you out of the tether. You're always going to be stunned out, so you have to ult if you're really worried about that stun. Also, whenever Cuvo just goes invisible, or not invisible, immune, he can walk through, you know, his teammates and stuff. It's so hard to find a fatal strike onto this Osiris, so it's just not a great matchup. Osiris comes online so much early. This is what we saw last game, where CaptainTwig was, of course, the Osiris, and now Cuvo gets his hands on it, and he's going to come out swinging as well. I imagine Twig's going to have some trouble trying to run away from this jungle matchup. The tether is just so annoying to deal with.
It sure is. Love it from Cuvo Fred, because Cuvo is such a momentum mindset-based player, where when the game is going great and he's really feeling himself, there's almost no stopping that Oni Warriors team, specifically funneled through Cuvo Fred. And so getting that going early here in game 2, exactly what the Oni Warriors needed, and a nice 1,000 goal lead or so. This is the style of position the Kings were in game 1. Because 1,000 gold spread across everyone, maybe specifically a bit heavier over towards right between Nika and Cubo Fred. Doesn't necessarily end the game, but it's how you then play around that. Can you continuously invade blue buffs and keep things rolling in that way? And so level 5 reached by both mid laners, Trelly, if we look back towards the middle of the map. And that's when we figured we could see some pressure. And Dardes playing this Hera, maybe getting active with Argus and getting that ultimate a bit more involved. And could be now as Neoma potentially in behind BigManTingz. Beads there, beads used. Polymorph might have done it. Now there should be setup opportunity onto BigManTingz without the beads.
Yeah, with the beads down, there's definitely some room to get aggressive. You can just drop Argus, the knock-up, into the Polymorph, and you just essentially set up all your damage so freely. Only Tier 2 Doom Orb, the Cursed Orb is purchased for Dardes. So once that full item gets finished, I imagine you have that one-shot burst potential. And, you know, if Cubo Fred's there as well, he's got the Blink available. So I would imagine some sparks could be flying in the mid lane. You got about a little over 2 minutes to do so now, so BigManTingz going to have to stay far back. He is pretty speedy, though, with his hive stack.
He is. What, do you remember the name of the orb in SpongeBob when they look into it, and it's when they're in, like, the cave in the supervillain episode? It's the Orb of Confusion.
Oh, yeah, yeah, when they just touch it, they
touch it.
Yeah.
For some reason, like, just now, like, Cursed Orb and Doom Orb made me think about that. Like, if you carry it around in your back pocket, it's just never-ending pain or something like that, you know?
Cursed Orb, yeah, and it looks like it's going to give, this orb gives Dardes a little bit of movement speed. So I don't think
it's good for you, Curse for the opposing team.
Yeah,
maybe.
It's going to be harder to hit him in that instance, but it looks like Nika will be going into a little bit of trouble. Has to use the beads early on, but the Fatal Strike is available.
Is there enough damage to get Nika into Fatal Strike threshold? It is slow burning. Maybe just one more rotation of abilities. Blink back forward from CaptainTwig. In and out of Fatal Strike range goes Nika, but now Cubo Fred back to solo. CaptainTwig has got to use the ultimate defensively, and Variety just too tanky up to this point. Some damage has been dealt on the flip side, but I don't think CaptainTwig healthy enough in health or mana to go back in. So now the mid laner's Trelly joining the fight.
Yeah, BigManTingz on the way. Cubo swinging a miss on Lord of the Afterlife. He's going to
be a kill, right?
fall down. He jukes out the swarm. One more ability from Variety will do it. And a beautiful rotation and so much healing from both of these solo laners. The HP buy from Variety, who could be in some trouble because Argus comes down.
We are still going, and Argus helps Dardes grab the kill, and Variety is the one who falls. Dharmic Pillars for Neoma help corral the Camelot Kings into the middle of that fight. My goodness, the solo man, Dardes or Variety and Nika, they wanna hang out and they wanna farm up just like the Hunters, but the other 3 members of either team not letting that happen. Now suddenly it's Neoma being chased down, and a transformation from genetics. A bit, maybe unnecessary, unfounded, a better word. Doesn't end up finding much, and the Oni Warriors will settle with a 1-for-1 trade on right.
Yeah, I think Dardes is going to take a little bit of damage here. Neil had to pop the sprint, so maybe if that sprint's not used, genetics connects some stuns and the chase ensues. But Neil, a little bit, wanted to be safe on this Ganesha and just runs out, not wanting to get chain stun there. Doesn't have any sort of beads available, so it could have been some trouble. Now, though, we can take a look at the round. And what we just witnessed was a whole lot of back and forth. 1,000 gold in favor for the Warriors still. They're up 3-1, and a lot of rotation. What started on a simple gank towards Nika, getting his beads down, no execute happens, and then just the re-gank from CaptainTwig, chased a little bit too far, and then everyone just comes over. There's a party in solo lane at that point, so all you need to know about that one is it netted a few kills, and the Oni Warriors are still about 1,000 gold in hand, and now they're able to just go back to farming. You know, we didn't see too much aggression on the BigManTingz, but now we might see a little bit as he beats us once again.
Yeah, a little bit. Beads have to get used by the AMC. It's a healthy rotation in from the Kings. 3v3 in mid has turned into a 4v4 in solo a couple of times, but this time will remain a 3 versus 3. Cubo Fred used Lord of the Afterlife. I don't mind it, even if it doesn't result in a kill, at least shows the willingness to find some value. Genetics has made his way over. CaptainTwig awaiting around the corner. Nika stunned, CC'd to hell and back. Looking for that execute threshold, healthy enough on the Artio. And again, the healing has just kept CaptainTwig from being able to use his ultimate. And Cubo Fred now walks in, drops CaptainTwig, and grabs his second kill of the game.
Yeah, you can't be grouping up as 3 into Artio. That just gives her so many opportunities to heal. The threshold was just not there, and this is also the The issue with this age of build, the Golden Blade into Stone Cutting, you have no sort of anti-heal. If you're trying to focus out Nika on this Artio, you gotta know the heal's gonna be coming through. Unfortunately for CaptainTwig, once again, gonna fall short on the threshold and not gonna be able to get out of that one. Now it looks like Cuvo's gonna get a little bit aggressive in this side of the map. More sword towards that blue buff. Maybe Variety wants to try and defend as much as possible, but Neilma's also here, so the 1v3 at blue, gonna be a tough steal.
At this point, less about the golden experience for the Oni Warriors. Oh, Nika has got to be careful. CaptainTwig back from base, beads off of Nika, and still no execute threshold because CaptainTwig doesn't have the ultimate back off of cooldown from last time. Doesn't matter. Genetics has picked up the kill on right for the Camelot Kings. It's an ultimate out from Cuvo Fred, and the tier 1 tower should be safety. Though Dardes is here, and we are doing it again. We're 4v4 in solo lane again. But for the Camelot Kings this time, the one pick will be enough.
Yeah, Dardes was not able to drop Argus there because Variety still had 2 jumps available, and a good ohm by Neilma to make sure that Cuvo is able to get out and hang on to his life. But just throwing haymakers left and right, both of these squads, more so led by, you know, the Camelot Kings are trying to get some pressure in that lane, trying to get CaptainTwig a kill or two, and execute would go a long way. We've seen what the Camelot Kings are able to do with a small bit of gold. They're just not giving up easily. The Oni Warriors have this early presence, and they're using it so well. Dardes has been able to make the clutch rotations in whenever need be. Not too far behind, though, and actually usually there first is BigManTingz on the AMC, both being very mobile. Actually hitting level 12 first is BigManTingz, so has been farming up very effectively, as you would expect from a mid laner. They play a little selfish, they get their farm online, but then once they get to the fight, you're happy they did it.
Yeah, absolutely. Net worth, top of the game for Dardes. Oni Warriors mid laner, a couple hundred gold ahead of BigManTingz on the flip side. So, kills maybe a big difference maker there for Dardes, as farm is kept up for BMT. Netrioid and Vote just continuously looking around, probably silent in team comms. Pyromancer burned by the Camelot Kings, and that's a nice objective over, and Neilma sent by the wayside. Finally, a fatal strike hits for CaptainTwig, and the Hunters have rotated into this fight as well, but Netrioid caught behind the pillar. Cubo Fred burned down by Netrioid, but that'll be his swan song. His Vote has gotten the last bit of damage onto the Ola run. Beads used by BigManTingz, and an airstrike up and over from Vote. Repositions the Jing way as Genetics finds a disarm. Damage out from the rest of the Camelot Kings as well. And it looks like 1-for-1 plus Pyro is the trade for the Camelot Kings.
Yeah, I think the Camelot Kings definitely getting the better. You know, you get 2 kills, you get the Pyromancer, you're able to just run, you're able to run away at that point and close up that gold lead. But I'm amazed that Netrioid was able to rotate over to that fight. Vote flying in as well. Just you never see the ADCs getting active this early. And CaptainTwig's not done. He's looking for Dardes, gets the beats down with the stun. Neilma's gonna try to play peel duty. And I don't know if you have the damage to finish this. He does!
Needs one more auto attack. He's gonna die for his troubles. Didn't have Fatal Strike to get in or out. So now it's jungle for mid that gets traded. Right, I forgot Neilma died so early in that fight that he was actually able to respawn by the time that it was finishing. So right, the Camelot Kings grab the 1 kill advantage around the Pyro, and then end up trading 1-for-1 over in mid. Ikavale doing some work for Vote, but Netrioid's got the burst damage on the flip, and is able to utilize some of the healing from the Typhon's Fang in the Ring of Hecate, helping trade out. Variety tier 1 tower dive, beads, Lord of the Afterlife, all of it being used. If there's gonna be a kill, it's gonna be a slow burn. Maybe for either side. Nika tanks up a couple more tower shots than he was ready for, but no one from the Camelot Kings on right. And now Variety goes down. The right side of the map is just a bloodbath, but ever objective-minded, the Camelot Kings get Gold Fury and get the gold lead back.
Yeah, they don't even get the tier 1 tower for that. I thought maybe the Warriors were going to go for that, given the fact that it took so long to kill Variety, and you had to know, if we spend all this time on the right side of the map, Gold Fury's going to be going down, but they're not able to. It just took a little bit too long, and now the retreat. And I'm amazed that CaptainTwig went for that dive underneath the tower on a Dardes. Got the beads down, knew the Aegis wasn't there, and had so much damage. Unfortunately died in the tower after the fact, but just output so much. That's the strength of his Achilles. Without the armor, you're so speedy, especially with a Golden Blade and a stone-cutting sword.
Right.
It's going to be difficult to try and live through that one, even with the Doom Orb from Dardes. But I was going to highlight again, Vote. Usually I hate this bow-style build from the Jing ways. I tend to see more of the crit gain value, but you're up against so many tanks. The early kin size is going to go a long way, as it looks like once again at the solo lane, we're going to see a brawl, but BaRRaCCuDDa just throws them away.
My goodness, Cubo, Fred, and Nika. Double stun, double root, double whirlwind of Rage and Steel, and then double damage from BigManTingz. But the double tankiness for the Oni Warriors, enough to keep Nika and Cubo Fred on the map. Fatal Strike, it's good this time, and Nika falls. BaRRaCCuDDa being chased down by Argus. But Hera's faithful defender won't strike Pater this time. Camelot Kings, over the last couple of minutes, Trelly, have gotten the objectives and gotten effective trades. Oni Warriors definitely active on the map, but still losing out on the big ones, the Pyromancers, the Furies, and still haven't knocked down any towers.
Yeah, so the Camelot Kings will be ahead in gold after another brawl towards that upper right-hand side of the map, whereas Netrioid, not in his lane, is actually going for the tier 1 tower in right, so is essentially left. While CaptainTwig says, don't worry, I'll defend your lane.
You could do this.
And focus out Bo. This should be an eventual kill just because CaptainTwig's so much faster.
God, he is so fast. Doesn't have Fatal Strike. That's the difference maker here. Didn't matter. Beads confirm the kill. And CaptainTwig has really turned this game around as well. Think back earlier on, a couple like dances in and out of execute threshold for Nika, and then CaptainTwig ends up dying, and now, strong enough, now with Brawler's Beat Stick, chases down the targets and improves to 4 and 3. Cubo Fred's put together a nice game as well. Slowing down Vote, a great look for the Camelot Kings, though they don't group up, try to push down the tier 1 tower, looks like. Happy with some individual picks, and also happy with their out of nowhere 2,500 gold lead. Just like, yeah, like 20 seconds ago it was even, and now we're at 2,500. Is that a kill and a tier 1 in right, I guess, and then just farm across the map? My goodness, the switch has been flipped.
Yeah, so unfortunately for the Oni Warriors, it just seems like Camelot Kings are on the farm game, right? We saw Vote steal a purple buff, then ult away, and CaptainTwig's able to chase him down the whole way, whereas Netrioid was on the other side of the map, pushing that tower down. All the while, BigManTingz is level 16, 0-0 and 5 on the AMC, so he's just been farming up as much as possible, and they're already set up at the Pyromancer, so the Camelot Kings are not letting any stone be unturned. Cubo's the only one to walk up and will be trying to go for the steal, but it looks like they will reset. They don't want to go up against Cubo Fred. He's got a fair bit of range on that Osiris.
Oh my god. Well, CaptainTwig's got a fair bit of damage alongside BigManTingz. Poke damage out from Dardes, and the Dharmic Pillars from Neoma send the Camelot Kings running. But when those ultimates time out, they'll simply turn back, and the Kings reinitiate on the Pyromancer. It's burning quickly. Steal chance, and steal confirmed, and it's Cubo Fred, I think, from over the wall that ends up taking it. But are the Camelot Kings incensed now? Do the Kings want to fight? Maybe yes, but it looks like the Oni Warriors will get out just fine after a nice steal from Cubo Fred.
Yeah, ideally I think the fight will ensue as this tier 1 tower is getting poked down by the Trebuchet, and BigManTingz has a fair bit of poke with the Honey as well. Nika's sort of just sitting around the backline waiting to see if he needs to go in, and there will not be a 5v5 underneath this tier 1 tower. The Camelot Kings, okay with 50-50ing that. It's just a Pyromancer. This Oni Fury after the fact, I don't imagine they just let be stolen by Cubo. You know, maybe a bait into the fight after the fact, try and use the Sanctified Field. Netrioid was able to hold on to that ultimate since there was no real fight there, and it makes the objective a lot easier to try and confirm. Camelot Kings will just go back to base here shortly as the Oni Warriors already have retreated. You got some time before this Fury comes up, and you really have to start forcing things. No relics were really used there. BaRRaCCuDDa was able to teleport, but besides that, not too much you have to worry out for. So this is going to be a full 5v5. It's time to get vision on the objective.
Yeah, Oni Warriors able to pull back just a bit as far as gold goes. So you're not going, like, look, at the 17-18 minute point in game 1, the Oni Warriors were already fighting a 3, 4, 5,000 gold deficit that had just passively built up. And so yes, the Pyromancer steal helps. Yes, you are still a bit behind, but to my point, the Oni Warriors have been much more active at least showing up around the objectives, but it's the call from the Kings to just do the Fire Giant. I don't care about the Oni Fury. When the Fire Giant stands on the right side of the map, the Oni Warriors know this is happening, but only a couple members, and they stick on the Oni Fury. It's a 2 versus 5 around the FG. A Sanctified Field goes down, and Fire Giant stolen by the Oni Warriors on their way in. Cubo Fred maybe gets it done again, and the Camelot Kings will leave the FG pit empty-handed outside of what might be a couple of kills. Cubo Fred, the first to fall. Nika with the stun, trying to keep those FG buffs on the map, but CaptainTwig finds a Fatal Strike to pull a couple back for the Camelot Kings. If you can't get the FG buff, maybe you can get a few kills. Kill number 2, canceled out. And CaptainTwig will have to give it over to BMT.
Wow, I mean, Cubo's stealing the Oni Fury. I mean, not the Oni Fury, stealing the Pyromancer. That was just a weighted coin toss, but stealing into the Sanctified Field, so difficult to do. You're in slow motion, but it's a perfectly timed Lord of the Afterlife to make sure to get that one.
What do you lose?
You're gonna lose a fair bit. Unfortunately, 3 members of your squad die, only fire on Dardes and Vote, and you don't want to lose your tier 1 and your tier 2 tower. You got the Oni minions that are pushing, so now the Camelot Kings are forced to retreat. That Phoenix is not a possibility. There's so many minions that you're going to have to clear, or else you're going to lose your towers yourself. And the Camelot Kings only have about 1,600 gold in their favor at the moment. Now we get a beautiful look at what Cubo was able to accomplish. Gets the beads forced down so early by Variety, but had one more form of CC immunity in the back.
It was smart. Man, Lord of the Afterlife just up and in. Of course, you're going to die immediately on the other end of that, but you steal it away. Netrioid, this would be a big pickup for the Oni Warriors, and pick up indeed. CaptainTwig and Netrioid both gone, and Dardes and Volt still have the Fire Giant buff, and those are the 2 members pushing down the left side of the map. Any gold lead that was there, soon to be missing. The Oni Warriors, a big play, a quick double pick, and suddenly the game is flipped right back again.
And yeah, they got Argus tanking for them, so the 2 members with Fire Giant will be doing increased damage. Argus is gone, but don't worry, he'll come back soon as Dardes uses some abilities. They don't care about those towers now. They got a lead, and they're going for this left side Phoenix.
Tier 2 and 1 still remaining in both mid and right. 4 towers left on the map, and so, don't know if you're looking for an end right about now if you're the Oni Warriors, though. Get a good enough fight, you could consider it. Left side Phoenix still long, burning. Nice ultimate from Variety. Now BigManTingz can really step up. Variety finds the first kill. BigManTingz with the second. And the trades out for objectives this game make it nearly impossible to follow. Map state now, yes, in favor of the Oni Warriors. But what are they going to lose on the back end of this fight? Suddenly now maybe the Camelot Kings can be the one to push down an objective.
Variety's got Blink in about 4 seconds. Take a look at Dardes' beads. They are down. 1 root, 1 Sky Slam should be the end of his life. Argus is about to come up, and the juke could be enough. Unfortunate Variety missed that one, and now are the Camelot Kings going for the mid Phoenix? They're trying to get aggressive. They've got a little bit of time, 15 seconds before Cubo, 10 before Nika. They're trying to get the return Phoenix.
This is ridiculous. The Camelot Kings now with the 5 versus 3 in under the mid lane Phoenix. They go with the Sanctified Field. We got to take a deep breath after this one. Absolutely need to, but the Oni Warriors not giving it over to the Camelot Kings, Variety and Twig under the mid lane Phoenix, but the Phoenix lives! The Kings don't get the Phoenix, and now the Kings are gonna lose 2 team members, and suddenly it's a 5 versus 3 going the other way.
Yeah, and we're looking at the power play, about 30 seconds left on Vote and Dardes, who have this FG buff.
Are they gonna go?
The Oni Warriors, it's time to run it down mid. You got some towers to get. Your Phoenix is essentially a stone's toss away from being knocked down, so you got to get some presence here. Argus is going to go in.
You are kidding me.
And die for the cause one more time.
You are kidding me. All right, we got a 5 versus 3 headed the other way. Fire Giant buff still for 10 seconds. This has got to be the deep breath moment. Yes, this tower burning too slowly. Phoenix is not going to go much quicker. This is unbelievable. And think back, that's a 4-minute Fire Giant buff where we did not get a second of the full-on, this team is far ahead.
It was
the Fire
just
Giant
chill.
Stolen. Right, and then three members of the Oni Warriors die after the Fire Giant is stolen. And then the Kings get a few towers for that. But then they overextend and they lose a couple members. And
Vote and Dardes go hard at the top left, yeah.
And then the Oni Warriors then are able to push in one of the Phoenixes. But that takes a little too long, and they lose 2 members.
They try to chase down Dardes.
Right.
Then they're like, oh, we're already here. Might as well go for the Phoenix.
Go for the Phoenix.
Lives with 1 HP.
Yeah, right. And then... All right. So, look, in times like this, right, in an economy like this, Trilly, you just have to zoom out and you say, okay, so the left side Phoenix is dead.
Right.
And so that's a massive advantage to the Oni Warriors. Forget about all the back and forth, the throws, the counter throws, all of that. The only massive map state advantage is the left side Phoenix being down, and that is big, as the Fire Giant is respawned. But the Oni Warriors also grab about a 4,000 gold lead. So I guess with all of the back and forth, the ups and downs, the Oni Warriors the ones who come out ahead. Fire Minion Waves, Trebuchets, that'll make a difference on the left side of the map.
Yeah, and it looks like the Camelot Kings want to try and force something quick, because if they don't, those Fire Minions and the Trebuchet are going to start to add up. They've already missed their chance, it looks like, and they will back up. The other thing you got to remember is that Cubo Fred was able to steal away 2 objectives, so his mental is on cloud 9. He's firing on all cylinders.
We're sending knuckle touches all around the Oni Warriors team booth right now.
Yeah, there's knuckle touches coming through. Look at him right now. Look how far up he is. That's because he's hyped up, and he should be. And it looks like the Fire Giant will be getting pulled here shortly, as Cubo is just gonna clear waves. Why not?
My man is high on a thing called SMITE right now, and Cubo Fred is feeling it at 3, 4, and 7. The KDA not indicative of the game that Cubo has had. Miracle plays after the Camelot Kings were mounting a nice lead in the mid of this game. Variety, Polymorph, stunned, silenced, you name it. Variety's got to avoid it, and at least able to avoid death, but Argus rolls through, but so does Sanctified Field, and that'll push the Oni Warriors back. Actually catches out a few members of the Oni Warriors. Right, Phoenix respawns, and that's CaptainTwig who's back defending it, slowly working down the Trebuchet. Might give the Oni Warriors an advantage if Neoma weren't so low.
Yeah, Neil has to back, so all that advantage we spent a good 2 minutes discussing before this is essentially gone. CaptainTwig defends the left side bird, 1 more fire wave, and the Camelot Kings are essentially back in this game, except for that small gold lead, about 4K. And this point of the game is going to be the biggest issue in the world. It's time for the Oni Warriors to pull this, or if not, CaptainTwig will be able to join the fight once again.
No teleports in this game. That's worth looking at as well. So again, yes, a small momentary advantage for the Oni Warriors. If you force it now, CaptainTwig won't be here. Movement speed somewhat quick. He'll get back to this side of the map a little bit faster. BigManTingz has speed buff, by the way, so that's something to look at. The AMC, very, very difficult to lock down, although Cubo Fred, with Lord of the Afterlife, might just make it happen. But what's happened to Dardes? The shielding has kept him alive, but Variety gets beads off of Vote with the ultimate. And now the Oni Warriors backing away, but Neoma not able to back out fast enough. BigManTingz on the killing spree. Execute forward from CaptainTwig, stun on the Vote, double kill. CaptainTwig has found the backline and found 2 kills in this fight.
Yeah, CaptainTwig is still chasing down Cuba for the 1v1, but look at the back. It looks like maybe Nika is trying to send the team on a wild goose chase, but they thought better of it. Only 2 members are going to go for that kill. The rest are going to be on the Fire Giant, as Cubo does get out of this fight. 1 more auto will do it. Finally, BigManTingz gets credit for that one, and it looks like the Camelot Kings defending that Phoenix was all they really had to do to make sure this Fire Giant goes their way. Cubo unfortunately can't steal it from base, and now the tides have turned.
Yeah, finally, somehow the least dramatic. I know, it's absurd. Somehow the least dramatic Fire Giant of the game is the one where the Kings kill 4 members of the Oni Warriors and get it for themselves. That's like the most clean cut we've gotten. This should be a simple Phoenix for the Kings, and it will be. But still a lot of towers left on the map. You'll be able to go back, grab those up. Cubo Fred on a journey. He's going to fill up the obelisk, but
he's going to find him.
The Kings are in range to deal with the obelisk. Cubo Fred's not, I don't think he gets out of this alive.
He's going to,
outside of a miracle play. How impactful is that going to be, though? Yeah, or the Afterlife gets used. Blink, reset. Can the Oni Warriors get here in time to punish the overextension maybe of the Kings? The answer is no. That's a minute without Cubo Fred on his journey to pick up that 1 last chalice. And that might mean 1 more Phoenix goes down quietly.
Yeah, that does seem to be the outcome. And if you get another pick, that might not just be your Phoenix you're losing. It really just depends on how the Oni Warriors decide to play this. They're posturing towards the back of this Phoenix, so that tells me limited defense. We don't want to lose the game. We want to lose the Phoenix, so they will back up and just try to defend that right side bird. And the Trebuchet that Cubo Fred died for is going to help out in assisting this defense. It's locked and loaded. It hasn't been sent off yet. The 2 Fire Knights, the Fire Minions, are standing ready to die for the cause.
And knowing this game, Trelly, that Trebuchet is going to have a watch. It's gonna knock down a right side tower and a Phoenix. Oh no, they're sending it out. They're sending it to its death. It's just going to walk out and nothing's going to happen.
That's what you think, but just wait. They've got a plan. Cubo died for this for a reason.
Here's the thing about this Trebuchet and how it's the best Trebuchet. Look at that.
Wow.
Boo! He missed all of the minions but the back one. All right. The cause is lost. The Oni Warriors are hopeless. Their Trebuchet missed all but 1 minion. At least get some pressure off the map. But this is now the most worrying fight of the game. Look at 3,000 gold for 3 members of the Camelot Kings. That just now went back and got spent up. So now the fruits of the Camelot Kings' labor of the last few minutes actually coming forward in this game. Still got a minute and a half on the Fire Giant buff. A tough minute and a half for the Oni Warriors to be on the map.
Yeah, I would say so. It's just going to be, you know, get as much farm as you can. Don't push out too far. A pick here would be disastrous. You got some more time, a minute and 15 seconds on the FG if you are the Camelot Kings. Do you go for that right side, Phoenix? Given their positioning, they're going to stay together more than anything, and they are headed right. So one more siege. If the Oni Warriors have a decent bit of stall, they could push this one out to the EFG. And finally, we have to watch as they take down the sending them out to sea, shooting the arrow.
Yeah, right.
Unfortunate.
Unlucky. The Trebuchet did not have an impact on this game. In a positive sense for the Oni Warriors, did have an impact through Cubo Fred that gave a free Phoenix to the Camelot Kings. And now 35 seconds remaining. Everyone's got Fire Giant buff. And one more Phoenix left standing. Haven't seen many 3 Phoenix turnarounds, but it is possible. BaRRaCCuDDa would like to end this game right now. Vote says no with the beads and some crits into the back of the Xing Chen. Dharmic Pillars through from Neomon, a transformation from Genetics. Sprint ready. When the Camelot Kings are ready, Genetics will send out the team-wide Coerce, the AoE Coerce. Neoma absolutely melting through damage in the Sanctified Field, forces the beads and the Aegis out from Dardes. Vote the first to go down. Dardes will follow as well, though Netrioid gets traded in turn, but Cubo Fred will die for his kill. BigManTingz has just ended this game with at least a double kill, and the ebbs and flows of this game were absurd. But it's a permanent ebbing or flowing. I don't know, whichever one is going back out to sea for the Oni Warriors, and the Kings make it a clean 2-0.
I mean, you said it best. The back and forth of this game was incredible. The Oni Warriors came out swinging for sure, but it was the Camelot Kings and their tenacity, their defensive skills, their retreating as well. That just was just enough to make sure that they're able to get back into this game, win that objective fight, and just take this set for themselves.
So I think ebbing is water coming back in, and then flowing would make sense. So it's a permanent flow out to sea for the Oni Warriors here in game 2, and a permanent ebb back into the shore, which I got it backwards. I was wrong. So ebb is leaving, flow is coming in, I guess. It's good for the Camelot Kings is my point here, Trilly. I know nothing about oceanography, and I've proved that here. Look, the Camelot Kings, I think that in a game like that, we had the cleanest of all clean games in game 1.
Right.
And then a bit messy here in game 2. I think that speaks to the Kings' ability to win in different circumstances.
Yeah, no doubt. The Oni Warriors definitely came out swinging out of the gates. And if you get a lead like that, it's difficult to play into.
Yep.
There was a ton of back and forth, but, you know, the Camelot Kings show why they're on top right now, and they know how to play from any situation.
Well, Trelly, you're in my time on this cast is ebbing, unfortunately, so we will flow back to the desk to break this one down.
Okay, I'm not gonna lie, that was a pretty smooth throwback over here. Thank you so much, Dave and Trelly. Camelot Kings take game number 2, but that was not an easy win for the Camelot Kings. Close throughout, early game their favor. Then we see the Oni Warriors get a couple of objective steals, a Pyromancer, a Fire Giant, some fight back, and then the Camelot Kings are able to find some nice fights back through the jungle as well. CaptainTwig able to get some big picks throughout, and at one point I turned over and I saw him fighting into a carry. I can't remember specifically if it was Vote or Dardes who ate the execute, but it wasn't even an execute threshold, and it nearly killed them anyways.
I think the win for the Camelot Kings in this one begins and ends with the front line. Both Genetics and BaRRaCCuDDa were just dominating. BaRRaCCuDDa in particular as well. I mean, that Jing Shen play was just so clean. Off the tail end of this team fight, or the beginning rather, BaRRaCCuDDa had started off by picking up 2 with Whirlwind of Rage and Steel, double sky hooks, just consistently landing that CC and knowing exactly what his margins of error were. It was always walking out of a fight with sub 10% HP, but always walking out, barring those first 3 deaths. But I would argue that the early game being so heavily in favor of the Oni Warriors is probably what causes the majority of that. The Camelot Kings, as they were saying on the cast, prove they could play from ahead, they could play from behind, they could play from even. So what does that mean? They could just play.
Very fair there. 7-5 for CaptainTwig to end out his game. A 2-0 and 11 from Genetics and a 6-0-9 for BigManTingz. And this is another one of those gods. It's also very similar for Dardes when he gets to sit Muzen Cobb. We're always reminded of exactly why this god in general is banned away, but also why this god has been banned away from players specifically out there. BigManTingz, 30,000 player damage on the Muzen Cobb. Next closest to him is CaptainTwig, nearly 6,000 more down from that point. Big damage numbers out of the Camelot Kings. Grouping around in these team fights and being able to stay calm even in the face of storms. I mean, when you lose a Pyromancer and then a Fire Giant back to back, for some
I thought it was over.
For some teams, and I think a lot of people thought that probably would have been over, but it wasn't for the Camelot Kings. They find the win, and we got the support Genetics standing by for our post-game interview. Congrats on the 2-0 win. Definitely kept it interesting there in game number 2. And talk to me a little about, you guys lose the Pyromancer, you guys lose the Fire Giant. Is it still just cool, calm, and collected in the comms, a little bit cluttered maybe?
No, it's fine. It's just like focusing on like what happens after you lose fire. Like it's unfortunate, but it's like you just move on and keep fighting anyway. And then it's like, you win the fight and you go, we should have won the game off that and we didn't. And it's a little bit annoying, but we were still pretty even. And when they have deaths with Fire Giant, they can't really do anything with it anyway. So it's just like being careful of the next objectives and usually you're fine.
Okay. So just a little bit of a regrouping out there. Now you guys have made it through your first half of the phase. You got to play every single team out there at least once. You guys come out at the top of the standings. Are you guys meeting those expectations that you set for yourself at the start of the phase? Still think maybe you still got a little bit more to go?
No, I think we're doing really well so far. I think we lost against Leviathans, which is unlucky, but we beat Tians, which is usually our worst matchup. We're playing pretty well. I like playing from behind and from ahead as well, and we're playing pretty well on both. And I think it's just down to people trying a bit more in practice, and we're getting to where we want to be now. Yeah,
and maybe what are some of the expectations for the team as you move into the second half of the phase? Now you go through another round robin. Is it really just kind of cleaning up that one game loss that you had up against the Leviathans and just keeping these going, or any kind of other change-ups for the team?
In my opinion, the most important thing for us is to not be able to be banned out. Like, I think it's fine for everyone to have
That's fair.
God's Force, but I want everyone to just think into draft, like, what can we do against these guys? If they don't want to give me Yemoja or Kepri, then they don't want to give Roy Dolaran, for example, and I want that to just be a big focus for us.
Yeah, no, it sounds like a good game plan from you guys. Congrats on your win today. I'll let you back with the team celebrating. Congrats again.
Thank you very much.
That's a very important point out there, and it's something that we talk about with a lot of teams. When you look at teams like the Dragons, you don't know what you exactly ban up against them because you don't know what they're going to pick. You don't know where they're going to take those picks and move them around. So being able to come into a picks and ban phase with a team like the Kings to where you don't know who you want to ban out, and even if a team knows, okay, well, we want to take out Genetics this game. We don't want him to have a couple of those big picks. Well, then you still got 4 other players that you have to worry about in the back pocket there. The Camelot Kings, with our second set of the day, take a 2-0 over the Oni Warriors. And now we move into our third and final set, the Jade Dragons and the Tartarus Titans, to close out week 4 of the SPL.
Man, the Jade Dragons against the Tartarus Titans, that are 6th seed, by the way, I'm pretty sure.
5th and 6th, I think, respectively.
5th or 6th, somewhere
That's
there.
crazy.
These are 2 teams that were in contention for Worlds. That's the world runner-up right there with the Tartarus Titans. So crazy.
That was the Masters winner.
Yeah, it is insane how the SPL has rounded out going into the last set of what do we call this? Like phase 1 of phase 2?
Yeah, phase 1 of phase 2 within the first half of phase 2. Yeah. Now nearly complete. We are one set away. Yeah, we're almost done with our first half of the round robins out of all of these ones. And yeah, the fact that we are looking at the Dragons, who were #1 in phase 1, the Titans, who won Masters in phase 1, are now both sitting 5th and 6th seed respectively is just a crazy thought to have, Mifflin.
It really is. And a match that you have to keep track of because I think it has just very high implications for how this next round of round robin is going to go. We're going to see how these teams are feeling as we start to establish exactly what the meta is. I feel like in recent weeks, most teams have really locked down exactly what they're trying to hone and develop. So I'll be watching this one, and I hope everyone at home will be as well.
I'll tell you what, Mifflin, anytime that I come in here, I got to write up these recaps every single week. I'm like, man, what's some good matches to talk about? This might be the hardest recap I've had to try and pick just a couple of matches to highlight because they've all been good, and we still got one more good one to come. Tartarus Titans, Jade Dragons, coming up next.
Asked them who wants an interview. Nobody said yes, but they're going to get one anyway. Biggie, you always avoid me, bud. I'm going to slide in right here. I actually don't like standing next to you because you're like a really cool dude, and like everybody looks a little bit less cool when they're around you. If you had to say one person on your team quits SMITE tomorrow to become a pickleball pro, who would it be and why?
Including myself?
Yeah, sure.
Me.
Okay, well, like, let's talk margins then. Like, how much better?
I think there's a tier system. There's me, CaptainTwig up.
Okay. Twig's looking at you pretty incredulously.
He gets it. Then there's probably, I'd say, Big Man, Royd, Harry on kind of like a bit, like there's a bit of a gap. There's a bit of a gap, and there.
Where am I?
And then there's a bigger gap, and then it's Sam down there.
Unlucky button. Does anyone want to defend themselves here? Do we feel like that's a unbiased opinion?
No, not really.
No.
I think it's slander that I'm on the same tier as Big Man and Roy. That is disgraceful. I'd rather be down there with Sam, honestly.
And I think he put you at second.
Yeah, Sam needs a bigger chasm before his skill level. That's pretty much it.
Fair enough, fair enough. Neilma, you excited for this set, bud?
No, we just have no chance of winning. We're just worse in every way, and it's just gonna be awful. The coach to support diff is heavy in this matchup.
Coach support diff. Chuck,
That's me.
how does it feel knowing that Neilma has got zero confidence not only in himself, his teammates, and your ability to coach them?
It feels really good. I like it. Thank you.
Yo.
Nika, I miss you, bud. You used to be my solo on Fantasy. Yeah. They had to bump me to bottom pick, so you know you got snatched up like first overall. I don't know. How do you feel about Neilma's haircut?
I actually like it. I think it suits him. I'm glad he finally switched it up. He's unleashed now.
Oh, okay. Fair enough, fair enough. I actually skipped vote. Unfortunately, he was like hiding in the room halfway. Dardes, CaptainTwig, better in jungle or mid?
Jungle for sure.
Yeah. Easy enough. Cubo Fred. You or Twig in the jungle?
Depends on the day. The man can take me down any given day.
Fair enough.
When he really wants it.
All right. And Netrioid, you or Twig in the jungle?
I'll say Twig. He has better mechanics.
He looked at Twig twice before he said it. It sounds like if I got you on your own, I might have got a different answer. I'll let you guys to get ready for your games. Thank you very much for the opportunity to talk to you. It's been a Miffle interview, a long one.